Dear students, welcome to the video lecture. So in today's video lecture, we are going to discuss the means of project finance, which is a part of the module 3. So in the previous video lecture, we have discussed about the financial projection of project. In today's video lecture, we are going to discuss the various means of project finance. So we have described basically there are various means of finance that can be tapped for a project. So here the point is, how should you go about determining the specific means of finance for a given project? The guidelines and consideration that should be borne in mind for this purpose are as follows. The first is the norms of regulatory bodies and financial institutions. And the second is key business consideration, which includes the cost, risk, control, and flexibility. If we talk about the norms of regulatory bodies and financial institutions, then in some countries, the proposed means of finance for a project must either be approved by a regulatory agency or conform to certain norms laid down by the government or financial institution in this regard. The primary purpose of such regulation is to impart prudence to project financing decision and provide a measure of protection to the investors. In addition, the norms of financial institutions, which often provide substantial assistance to projects, significantly shape and circumscribe project financing decision. The second is key business consideration. The key business considerations which are relevant for the project financing decision are cost, risk, control, and flexibility. The first consideration is cost. In general, the cost of debt funds is lower than the cost of equity funds. Why? The primary reason is that the interest payable on debt capital is a tax deductible expense, whereas the dividend payable on the equity capital is not. The second consideration is risk. The two main sources of risk for a firm are business risk and financial risk. Business risk refers to the variability of earnings before interest and taxes and arises mainly from fluctuation in demand and variability of prices and cost. Financial risk represents the risk arising from the financial leverage. It must be emphasized that while debt capital is cheap, it is also risky because of the fixed financial burden associated with it. The third is control. From the point of view of promoters of the project, the issue of control is very important. They would ordinarily prefer a scheme of financing which enables them to maximize their control, current as well as potential, over the affairs of the firm, given their commitments of fund to the project. And the last business consideration is flexibility. This refers to the ability of the firm to raise further capital from any sources it wishes to tap to meet the future financing needs. This provides maneuverability to the firm. In most practical situations, flexibility means that the firm does not fully exhaust its debt capacity, but put differently, it maintains reserve borrowings powers to enable it to raise debt capital to meet largely unforeseen future needs. Now we will discuss the purpose of long-term finance. A business requires funds for the purchase of fixed assets like land and building, plant and machinery, furniture, etc. These assets may be regarded as the foundation of business. The capital required for these assets is called fixed capital. A part of the working capital is also of a permanent nature in order to maintain the operating cycle. So the funds required for permanent part of the working capital and for the fixed assets are called long-term finance. So there are basically three important purposes of long-term finance. The first is to finance the fixed assets. The second is to finance the permanent part of working capital. And the third is to finance the growth and expansion of business. So now we will discuss the factors determining the long-term financial requirements. The first is the nature of business. So the requirement of the long-term finance depends on the nature and character of the business. A manufacturing company requires land, building, and machines, etc. for the production purpose. So it has to invest a large amount of capital in these fixed assets for a long period. But a trading concern dealing in electronic items will require a small amount of long-term finance because it does not have to invest in the purchase of machines and equipment. The second factor is nature of goods produced. If a business is engaged in manufacturing small and simple articles, it will require a smaller amount of fixed capital as compared to one manufacturing heavy machines or heavy consumer items like cars, refrigerators, etc., which will require more fixed capital. The third is the technology used. If a manufacturing company is using a simple and labor-intensive technology, then the requirement of long-term finance will be low in comparison to the other company which involves capital-intensive technology. So now we will discuss the sources or means of finance. To meet the cost of the project, the following means of finance are available. The first is share capital, second is debenture, third is retained earnings, fourth is public deposits, fifth is term loan, and sixth one is the venture capital finance. So we will discuss each source of finance individually. The first comes the share capital. Issue of shares is the main source of long-term finance. Shares are issued by joint stock companies to the public. A company divides its capital into units of a definite face value, say rupees 10 each or rupees 100 each. Each unit is called a share. A person holding shares is called as a shareholder. There are basically four types of shares. The first is equity share, the second is preference share, the third one is the deferred share, and the last one is the no par share. Now we will discuss the features of share. So basically it is a unit of the capital of the company. Each share is of a definite face value. Each share has a distinct number. The face value of a share indicates the interest of a person in the company and the extent of his liability. Shares are transferable units. A share certificate is issued to a shareholder indicating the number of shares and the amount. In the next slide, we are going to discuss the concept of preference shares and what are the various types of preference shares. The preference shares are the shares which carry preferential rights over the equity share. These rights are receiving dividend at a fixed rate, and the second right is getting back the capital in case the company is wound up. Investment in their share is safe, and a preference shareholder holders also gets dividend regularly. Following are the types of preference shares. The first one is the convertible preference shares. The second is the non-convertible preference shares. The third is redeemable preference shares. The fourth one is irredeemable preference shares. The fifth one is cumulative preference shares. The sixth one is non-cumulative preference shares. The seventh one is participating preference shares, and the last one is non-participating preference shares. Now we will discuss each type of preference share individually. The first comes the convertible preference share. The holders of the convertible preference shares are given the option to convert their preference shares into equity shares at a time and in a ratio as decided by the company. Then comes the non-convertible preference shares. The non-convertible preference shares are those preference shares which cannot be converted into the equity shares of the company. The third one is the redeemable preference shares. The redeemable preference shares are those preference shares which can be redeemed or paid by the company at any time before the company is wound up or on a maturity date. The fourth one is irredeemable preference shares. So irredeemable preference shares are those shares which cannot be redeemed or paid by the company at any time before the company is wound up. The fifth one is cumulative preference shares. So in this case, the holders have the right to receive the dividend even if the company faces loss to such type of shares. Then comes the non-cumulative preference shares. In this, if the company earns the profit, then the shareholders will receive the dividend. Otherwise, if the company is not earning profit, then they will not receive the dividend of the same year. The seventh one is participating preference shares. In this, the shareholders can claim fixed dividend rate as well as they can participate in the surplus profits of the company along with the equity shareholders. And the last one is non-participating preference shares. So in this, the shareholders can claim only fixed rate of dividend. Now we will discuss the advantages of preference shares. The first advantage is fixed dividend. So in case of preference shares, the dividend rate is fixed. So it is also called as the fixed income security because it provides a constant rate of income to the investor. The second is the cumulative dividends. The preference shares have another advantage which is called cumulative dividends. If the company does not earn any profit in any previous years, it can be cumulative with the future period dividend. The third advantage is redemption. The preference shares can be redeemed after a specific period except in case of irredeemable preference shares. The fourth is the participation. The participative preference shareholders can participate in the surplus profit after distribution to the equity shareholder. And the last advantage is convertibility. So convertibility preference shares can be converted into equity shares when the articles of association provide such conversion. Now we will discuss about the disadvantage of preference shares. So the first disadvantage is it is expensive source of finance while compared to equity shares. The second is no voting rights. So preference shareholders do not have any voting rights. The third disadvantage is fixed dividend only. Preference shares can get only fixed rate of dividend. They may not enjoy more profits of the company. The fourth disadvantage is permanent burden. Cumulative preference shares became a permanent burden so far as the payment of dividend is concerned because the company must pay the dividend for the unprofitable periods also. And the last disadvantage is taxation. So in the taxation point of view, the preference shares is not a tax deductible expense while calculating the tax, but the interest is the tax deductible expense. So it has the disadvantage on the tax deduction point of view. Now we will discuss equity shares and the types of equity shares. So equity shares are the shares which do not enjoy any preferential right in the matter of payment of dividend or the repayment of capital. The equity shareholders get dividend only after the payment of dividends to the preference shares. There is no fixed rate of dividend for the equity shareholders. The rate of dividend depends basically upon the surplus of the profit. In case of wind up of the company, the equity share capital is refunded only after refunding the preference share capital. Now, according to the stock market, these are the following types of equity shares. The first one is the blue chip share. The second is the growth share. The third is the income share. The fourth one is the cyclical share. The fifth is defensive. And the last one is speculative share. Now we will discuss each type of equity share individually. The blue chip shares are mainly issued by the large, well-established and financially strong companies with an impressive record of earnings and dividends. The growth shares, these shares are mainly issued by those companies which enjoy an above average rate of growth as well as profitability. Income shares, these shares are mainly issued by those companies which are having fairly stable business operation, relatively limited growth opportunities and high dividend payout ratio. Cyclical shares, these shares are mainly issued by those companies that have a pronounced cyclicality in the operation. The next is defensive shares. These shares are mainly issued by those companies that are relatively unaffected by the ups and downs in general business condition. And the last one is speculative shares. So these shares tend to fluctuate widely because there is a lot of speculative trading in them. Now we will discuss the advantage of equity shares. So we will discuss the advantage of equity shares from the point of view of shareholders and from the point of view of management of the company. So advantage to the shareholders include high dividend rate, high market value, marketable, and the equity shareholders enjoy the voting rights. And from the point of view of management, A company can raise fixed capital by issuing equity shares without creating any charge on fixed assets. Next is high confidence. If a company raises more capital by issuing equity shares, it leads to greater confidence among the investors and creditors. Dividend payment. There is no liability on the company regarding the payment of dividend on equity shares. The company may declare dividend only if there is enough profits. And the last one is non-redemption. The capital raised by issuing equity shares is not required to be paid back during the lifetime of the company. It will be paid back only if the company is owned up. Now we will discuss the disadvantages of equity share from the point of view of shareholders and from the point of view of management. So from the point of view of shareholders, there is uncertainty about the payment of dividend. Second disadvantage is speculative. During the boom period, often there is a speculation on the prices of equity shares. When the company pays dividend at a higher rate, there is also the danger of overcapitalization. When a company has raised more funds than required by issuing shares, then the capital structure becomes overcapitalized. As a result, the rate of return shows a declining trend, which in turn leads to decrease in the market value of shares. Ownership in name only. So equity shareholders represent the owners of the company. Such shareholders enjoy the voting rights. They manage and control the company, but then it is all in the theory. In practice, a handful of persons control the votes and manage the company. And the last disadvantage of equity share to the equity shareholders is higher risk. Equity shareholders bear a very higher degree of risk. In case of losses, they do not get any dividend. In case of winding up of the company, the equity shareholders are refunded capital after refunding the capital to the preference shareholders. Now we will discuss the disadvantages of equity shares to the management. The first disadvantage is no trading on equity. Trading on equity means the ability of a company to raise the funds through the preference shares, debentures, and bank loans, etc. On such funds, the company has to pay a fixed rate. This enables the equity shareholders to enjoy a higher rate of return when profit are lost. The major part of the profit earned is paid to the equity shareholders because the borrowed funds carry only a fixed rate of interest. But if a company has only equity shares and does not have either preference shares, debentures, or loan, it cannot have the advantage of trading on equity. The next disadvantage is conflict of interest. As the equity shareholders carry voting rights, groups are formed to corner the votes and grab the control of the company. There develops a conflict of interest, which is very harmful for the smooth running of the company. Now we will discuss the deferred shares. The deferred shares are also called as the founder shares because these shares were normally issued to the founders. The shareholders have a preferential right to get the dividend before the preference shares and equity shares. So according to the Company Act 1956, no public limited company or which is a subsidiary of public company can issue deferred shares. These shares were issued to the founder at a small denomination to control over the management by the virtue of their voting rights. And the last type of share is no par shares. So when the shares are having no face value, it is said to be no par shares. The company issued this kind of shares, which is divided into a number of specific shares without any specific denomination. The value of shares can be measured by dividing the real net worth of the company with the total number of shares. Means the value of no par share is equal to the real net worth divided by total number of shares. So these are the following types of shares. Now we will discuss another source of finance, project finance, that is the debentures. So we will discuss the concept of debentures, the various types of debentures, and the features of debentures. The debentures are basically the long-term loan given by the debenture holders to a company at a fixed rate of interest. It is a fixed income bearing securities and also a debt instrument. So these are the following types of debentures: the secured debentures, unsecured debentures, registered debentures, bearer debentures, redeemable debenture, irredeemable debenture, convertible debenture, and non-convertible debenture. So secured debentures are those which are secured by any kind of security of the company. Unsecured debentures are those which are not secured by any kind of security. Registered debentures, in case of registered debentures, the name and address of the holders of such debentures are recorded in the register of the company, and such debentures are transferable, are not freely transferable. In case of bearer debentures, the name and address of the holders are not recorded in the register of the company, and such debentures are transferable by mere delivery. Redeemable debentures are the debentures which are repayable on a predetermined date or at any time prior to their maturity, provided the company so desires and gives a notice to that effect. Next is the irredeemable debentures. These are also called as the perpetual debentures. A company is not bound to repay the amount during its lifetime. If the issuing company fails to pay the interest, it has to redeem such debentures. Next comes the convertible debentures. The holders of debentures are given the option to convert their debentures into the equity shares at a time and in a ratio as decided by the company. And the last one is the non-convertible debentures. These debentures cannot be converted into the share. Now we will discuss the features of debentures. The debenture holders are basically the creditors of the company. Debentures are basically repayable after a fixed period of time, say 5 years or 7 years. Debenture holders do not carry any voting rights. Usually, debentures are issued with a specified rate of interest, which is also called as coupon rate. And the last feature is ordinarily debentures are secured. In case the company fails to pay the interest on debentures, then the debenture holders can cover it from the sale of the assets of the company. Now we will discuss the advantage of debentures. The first advantage is raising the funds without allowing control over the company. The second advantage is it is a reliable source of long-term finance. There are also some tax benefits with the debenture because the interest paid on debentures is treated as an expense and is charged to the profits of the company. Thus, the company saves the income tax. And the last is the investor safety. Debentures are mostly secured on winding up of the company. They are repayable before any payment is made to the shareholders. Now we will discuss the retained earnings. So retained earnings are another method of internal source of finance. Actually, retained earnings are also called under different names such as self-finance, inter-finance, plug-in back-up profit, etc. So according to the Company Act 1956, certain percentage as prescribed by the central government not exceeding 10% of the net profit after tax of a financial year have to be compulsorily transferred to reserve by the company before declaring dividends for the year. Now we've discussed the advantage of retained earnings. The first is it is useful for the expansion and diversification of the business activities. Second advantage is it is an economical source of finance. Why? Because it is a low cost source of finance since it does not involve any flotation costs as in the case of raising of funds by using different types of securities. The third advantage is no fixed obligation. If the company use equity finance, they have to pay dividend. And if the company use debt finance, they have to pay the interest. If the company uses retained earnings as a source of finance, they need not pay any fixed obligation regarding the payment of dividend or interest. It is also the flexible source of finance. Retained earnings allow the financial structure to remain completely flexible. The company need not raise loans for further requirements if it has retained earnings. It also helps in increasing the value of sales when the company uses the retained earnings as the source of finance for their financial requirements. the cost of capital is very cheaper than the other source of finance. As a result, the value of shares will increase. It also avoids excessive tax. Retained earnings provide opportunities for evasion of excessive tax in a company when it has a small number of shareholders. And the last is increase earning capacity. Retained earnings consist of least cost of capital, and also it is most suitable to those companies which go for diversification and expansion. These are some of the disadvantages of retained earnings. The first is misuses. The management, by manipulating the value of shares in the stock market, can misuse the retained earnings. Second is it leads to monopolies. Excessive use of retained earnings leads to monopolistic attitude of the company. Third is overcapitalization. Retained earnings lead to overcapitalization because if the company uses more and more retained earnings, it leads to insufficient source of finance. The next disadvantage is tax evasion. The retained earnings lead to tax evasion since the company minimizes tax burden through the retained earnings. And the last one is dissatisfaction. If the company uses retained earnings as a source of finance, the shareholders can't get more dividends. As a result, the shareholders does not like to use the retained earnings as a source of finance in all situations. Now we will discuss public deposits. So it is very old source of finance in India. When modern banks were not there, people used to deposit their savings with the business concern of good repute. Even today, it is a very popular and convenient method of raising medium-term finance. The period for which the business undertaking accepts public deposits, it ranges between 6 months to 3 years. Now we will discuss the features of public deposits. These deposits are not secured. They are available for a period ranging between 6 months and 3 years. They also carry a fixed rate of interest. And the last feature is they do not require a complicated legal formalities as are required in case of shares and debentures. If we discuss about the advantage of public deposits, so the method of borrowing money through public deposit is very simple and it does not require any complex legal formalities. Second advantage, no charge on assets. Public deposits are secure. They do not have any charge on the fixed assets of the company. The third advantage is economical. Expenses incurred on borrowing through public deposits is much less than the expenses of other sources like shares and debentures. And the last advantage is flexibility. The public deposits bring flexibility in the structure of the capital of the company. This can be raised when needed and refunded when not required. So these are some of the disadvantages of public deposits. The first is uncertainty. So a concern should be of high repute and have a high credit rating to attract the public to deposit their savings. There may be sudden withdrawals of deposits which may create financial institutions. The second disadvantage is insecurity. Public deposits do not have any charge on assets of the concern. It may not always be safe to deposit savings with the companies, particularly those which are not very sound. Third disadvantage is lack of attraction for professional investors. As the rate of return is very low and there is no capital appreciation, the professional investors do not appreciate this mode of investment. The next disadvantage of public deposit is uneconomical. The rate of interest paid on public deposit may be low, but then there are other expenses like commission and brokerage which make it uneconomical. Next is hindrance to growth of capital market. If more and more money is deposited with the companies in this form, there will be less investment in securities. And last is overcapitalization. As it is an easy, convenient and cheaper source of raising money, companies may raise more money than it is required. In that case, it may not be able to make the best use of funds or may indulge in speculative activity. Now the next source of finance is term loan. The term loan is a long-term secured debt extended by the banks or financial institutions to the corporate sector for carrying out their long-term projects maturing between 5 to 10 years, which is normally repaid in monthly or quarterly equal installment. Now we'll discuss the features of term loan. So the first feature is the loan can be made in any currency. Second feature is it is a secure loan. The third is the loan installment. The repayment of loan is done in installment. These installments cover both principal and interest. Normally, loan installment are decided by the banks based on the borrower's cash flow capacity. Next feature is maturity. Normally, a term loan is ranging between 5 to 10 years. And the next feature is loan agreement. An agreement is drafted between the borrower and the bank regarding the terms and conditions of the loans, which is signed by the borrower and is preserved with the bank. And the last feature is loan covenant. The covenants are the part of the loan agreement. There are certain statements in the agreement which states certain do's and don'ts for the company. They are normally related to the use of assets, creation of liabilities, cash flow, and control of the management. So in this video lecture, we have discussed the following source of finance like equity shares, preference shares, debentures, retained earnings, term loans. Okay. So these are basically the long-term source of finance. I hope the students may get some clarity related with the long-term source of finance of the project. So with this, I'm going to end the video lecture. Thank you.